We welcome you to the political forum for Lincoln County mayoral candidates, hosted by the Fayetteville Weekly and the Elk Valley Times. We particularly appreciate the participation of our two candidates for county mayor, incumbent Bill Newman and his challenger, Rick Head. We would like to thank the City of Fayetteville for the use of its auditorium tonight, Fayetteville Public Utilities for their coverage of our forum, and Sheila Allen and the Lincoln County Election Commission for all they do in preparing for elections. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce himself. Each has already drawn the order in which he will go. Following their introductions, we'll proceed to the question and answer phase. 6 questions will be posed to each candidate. Thank you, by the way, to the residents who sent in questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to his question, and each will be given an opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal. Our timekeeper, Mr. Skip Bivens, we appreciate you, will signal each of you when 30 seconds remains on the clock. We ask that the candidates remain professional and not engage in any personal attacks. We know they won't, but all comments should be in good taste and within the bounds of truthfulness and fairness. We also ask that you respect the time constraints in fairness to each other. Each candidate will now give their opening statement, and I believe Bill drew first to introduce.
Thank you. Thank y'all for coming out tonight. I especially thank Dora, Diane, and my family for being here and supporting me, and a lot of other people here that are on our team in county government. See some from the city, and I just appreciate y'all's support by coming out tonight. Winston Churchill said, "To every man there comes a time, that special moment in his lifetime, when he is figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered a chance to do a very special thing." That for me was 4 years ago. When I was elected your county mayor, everything I had done in my lifetime led for my preparedness for that job. My work ethic as being raised on a farm, on a dairy and beef farm, where I started to work at the milk barn at the age of 7, gave me the hard work ethic to do the job that this job requires. My education, graduated locally, went to the University of Tennessee, graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, on to Auburn University, where I graduated with a degree in veterinary medicine. I practiced veterinary medicine at Fayetteville Animal Clinic, and I was on probably every farm in Lincoln County and took care of most of the pets in Lincoln County along with our other staff. To that point, I joined a real estate firm, and I learned a lot about people and homes and just real estate in general that I have applied to this job too. Once we got in the job, it took me a while to just analyze where we were as far as our asset management over all that it entails in the county mayor. Well, I appreciate being elected, but also remember the duties and the responsibilities of it. And I just want to appreciate the things that all this county has done for me to lead me in my life to this point where I think I've done a really good job as county mayor in 4 years. And after I found out all we needed in Lincoln County 4 years ago, I dedicated 12 years of my life and said, it cannot be done in 4 years. So if it takes it and God's willing, I want to do 2 more terms, not just the one we're up for election now, because I think it will take that long to complete some of the tasks that I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Head? The mind is a wonderful thing, and for me, it started working the minute I was born. It doesn't generally stop until the minute I'm sitting in front of a group of folks, like this evening. So good evening, and what a privilege it is to be here tonight to speak to you about my run for Lincoln County Mayor. Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight to support this forum. and to support Bill and I as we make every effort to secure your vote. Thanks to Lucy, thanks to Chase and Don, Skip. We appreciate everything y'all have done. It's a lot of work and it's truly appreciated. Rather quickly, let me sum up Rick Head's 63 years as of today in the next 2 minutes. What makes me think I'm qualified to be your county mayor? First and foremost, I have conservative values and hold God, family, and country in the highest regard in that order. I'm conservative in every means. I believe I can take Lincoln County forward based on 35 plus years of experience, not only in business, but in leadership positions that have demanded extreme attention to customer service. While I have had responsibility for multi-million-dollar balanced budgets through the years I've worked and operated multiple businesses in a worldwide arena, what's made me successful, what's built my reputation, is strong leadership skills with the utmost focus on impeccable integrity. My mantra has and always will be, do what you say you're going to do. Do not promise what you can't accomplish. And when you say you will do something, do it on time. And always, always, always ensure that there's transparent communications both ways. This has allowed me to build a successful career spanning 4 decades across military service, commercial manufacturing, consulting, and government service. I was very fortunate to learn early in life from my dad that leadership wasn't facilitating situations while others told you what and how to do something. In other words, he taught me, don't be someone's puppet or anyone's puppet. Leadership is the ability to seek out understanding from those around you through listening with a sharp mind, a compassionate heart, interpreting those ideas and driving execution of a plan with a group of folks drawn together through mutual trust and respect, and in every endeavor seeking God's wisdom. That's the challenge that I have, and that's the change I want to bring to Lincoln County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Head. Mr. Newman, you have first draw for the question.
Number 32.
32.
That's a joke. I don't know if it's 6 or 9, so you tell me. The hash mark is in front of the figure, and it's a 9, or if it's after, it's a 6.
We'll take number 6. Sir, if there is
Okay.
one thing you would do on the first day in office after the August 2nd election without worry of cost, what would that be?
Well, first off, it's going to be thank the people that gave me the job for 4 more years and appreciation of what they've allowed me to do. I don't think anything's without cost, especially financial costs in government. So if it was going to be anything that I would do and it didn't have anything to do with cost, it'd probably go to lunch.
Mr. Head.
That one's pretty simple. I think through the town hall meetings and through all the discussions that I've had with folks in the county so far, the biggest thing we make a mistake on, the biggest thing we don't do well, and when I say we, I'm not talking about just local government, I'm talking about state and federal government as a whole. We don't communicate well. We don't listen well, and we sure don't tell people everything we're planning on doing. And when we don't do that, we leave ourselves open for lack of accountability. Because even though we may have had a plan to do something well and we didn't tell people what it was, people are going to say, well, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Well, we didn't because we didn't tell anybody. So I think for me, it would be determine exactly how we're going to open up every means of communication possible to make sure people know what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and we can fulfill their expectations.
Thank you. Mr. Newman,
Okay.
if you would draw the next question, please.
I guess Rick
Yeah.
gets...
I get to draw this time?
Oh, that's right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm thinking who's next. I apologize.
Not a problem. How about number 5?
All right. What would be your top priorities if you were elected as county mayor or re-elected?
So the first thing, as I just said, the very first thing is open up channels of communication. One thing we've had a lot of fun with the last few weeks has been town hall meetings. I learned very early on that a commissioner's job is to listen. Donnie taught me this when we had a beer board hearing that we didn't necessarily have to have, but we got to sit and listen to folks and try to understand what their direction was and what they wanted. Those things are extremely important, and we have to determine how we're going to integrate more of those town hall meetings to provide more feedback back to us. Whether it's just town hall meetings, interactive websites, social media events, interactive dial-in phone calls, as we've seen Scott Dargelet do. All those things are tools we can use to better communicate with the public. The next thing that there's two priorities actually. The second is the one thing that I asked for when we started this mission as a commissioner is, where's the county's 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 2-year plan? Where's our long-term strategy and our plan for where we're going in this county? One of the things that's made our county to the south so successful is they've got a 15-year, a 25, and a 50-year plan. Do they adapt them every week and every month and every year? Absolutely. But they have a plan. They know where they're going. The community knows where they're going, and it garners tremendous support for them to move it forward. That would be the first order, is develop that strategy and the plan.
Okay, mine is, we've got a strategy and a plan. Apparently Rick doesn't know about it, but let me just go over some of the things that we've accomplished through our strategic planning. One is our LEAP grant. Our LEAP grant, $240,000, we were able to add night classes in our industrial maintenance at Motlow. We were able to get the grant from TDEC, the Tennessee Environment and Conservation, $250,000, where we didn't have to pay for that to keep the area around our closed landfill clean. We got $500,000 for low-income housing to improve that for our citizens that couldn't make the repairs for it. Our office, through Diane and Dora, saved Lincoln County over $100,000 in inmate health costs at Vanderbilt and St. Thomas just by negotiating with those people with the help from our health system here. And thank you, Diane, and thank you, Dora, because this is $100,000 that didn't raise our taxes. Also, our asset management, I'm in charge of 4 buildings. When we got in office, we had to analyze where they all sit. There were 2 of them that were not safe for the people working there. We got that fixed. We've got 1 more of the buildings we got to get fixed. In our office, in the mayor's office, we are operating on $20,000 less than the previous administration did. $20,000 less. We also, one of our priorities in strategic planning was, let's do something about audit findings, and we did it. The first time in history, in 2015 and 16, no findings. Repeated the next year, no findings. So what is our strategic plan? Keep up what we're doing, because we have a plan and we are working it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Newman.
you.
And just a quick reminder to both candidates, just keep an eye on Skip. He'll have that 30-second
You may
mark
have
for you.
Did I go over?
Just a little.
I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
all
sorry.
right. Mr. Newman, next question.
Okay. Number 10.
Describe the significance of the relationship between the county and city and why you're either pleased or displeased, as the case may be, with that relationship.
I'm very pleased. There's some of the city people in here, and the problem before is we hadn't had communications across. There's not a moat running down Elk Avenue. They can come across there and we can come across here, and we do. One of the proudest things I'm at, a few weeks ago or a month ago, Commissioner Harry and Mayor Law and I were at the same economic development session working at what do we need to do for Fayetteville. Fayetteville is part of Lincoln County. A lot of people think it's them against us. It's not. We're all in this ball game. We've got a lot going for us between the two, and we're all one community, and I love the way things are headed. We're getting along really well. So I appreciate the way they are doing it, and I appreciate the way our county representatives are doing it too.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Head?
I think I have to agree with Bill. It's going rather well, but I have seen some things over the course of the last few years that have bothered me a little bit. Being a member of the Industrial Oversight Committee, we ran into some issues a couple of months ago where the city aldermen on that committee were pushing back to the county commissioners on that committee that maybe they wanted to pull out of this endeavor because there just wasn't much left in it for the city. We had quite a few discussions over that, and it ended okay, but it could have gone much more smoothly. I think we need to bolster that communication up a little bit more. I think we need to work, as Bill said, I think we need to open it even further up between the city and the county to what are we doing in common on every step we're taking. That's what I was talking about earlier when I talked about a strategy and a plan. The plan isn't just what are we going to do today. It's not just what are we going to do this year. It's what are we going to do 5 years from now and 10 years from now with the city, with the county, with every leader of every department in these two entities, because it's what matters. But we also have to look at the other two cities in this county. We have Ardmore and we have Petersburg. Where do they fit into that picture as well? It's necessary that we communicate with everybody and have a plan that includes everybody. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Head, I believe it is your turn to draw.
You know, Bill, we may ought to switch this up. We need time for a drink of water in between talking, don't we?
I'm getting started.
How about number 7?
Number 7. Well, it's interesting that this question is, what is your 10-year plan for the community?
The plan for this community, as we move forward, we all realize that we've had a tremendous amount of growth in certain parts of the county. Is it as much as maybe we'd like to see? Maybe not, maybe so. But one thing we've learned that I've learned in talking with FPU, for years and years we have moved forward with a little bit of expansion, but we've lacked doing all the maintenance on our infrastructure that we should have. We've let our infrastructure fall in ill repair in a lot of cases and done very little to help it. So in the 10-year plan, how do we recover all of the things we've let go? How do we bring everything back to a good standing in our infrastructure, water, power? Brett Dye and crew are doing a very good job with that, but we need to know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it so we can bring the rest of the departments along with them. How are we going to bring the county water in with the same plan? Where does every piece fit together, and where will we be in the 10-year point? We know that we're going to have to add a school in the south, either to replace Blanche or to be somewhere nearby. We've got to get that into the plan. Bill and I will probably talk sometime through that tonight about the school and about the financial footing of the county. So we'll leave that to there. But we know that there are other things we're going to have to do. Being in the Law Enforcement Commission committee, Murray and I have talked at great length along with the other committee members about how we're going to handle the long-term growth in the south end of the county with better support for law enforcement. But if we're doing that and we have an ambulance service down there and we have volunteer fire departments, do we need to be thinking about more support for departments in the south end of the county? So I think within 10 years we've got to be addressing the school issue. We've got to be addressing how we're going to support the lack of maintenance on infrastructure and improve it. We've also got to look at the next phase of the sewer going out to South Lincoln. We know that we're running into issues there with sewage and overcrowding. We're going to have to address that as well. So those all are going to have to be rolled into that last sequence.
Mr. Newman.
Okay, one of the ones that our biggest industry in Lincoln County, I don't know if Rick even knows they exist, but $110 million annually comes from agriculture. We cannot restrict our agricultural industry like he supposes. If you get some of the notes from the planning and zoning, he wants to add more restrictions out in our rural areas that's going to involve farming. You know, there's a lot of people out there that's got their grandfather's barn, and if it was up to him, if the shingles aren't right on it, we're going to have to do something about it. But in education, you know, we're looking at a new school, and that's a 10-year project. There's probably none going to happen before then. And on our roads, we've got a 10-year plan on it. If anybody wants to know it, because where we come in, Tim Gill is in charge of all the county roads. My time up? Thank you. I'll come back to it.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Your question.
Okay. Number 13.
13. Given that accountability uses measurable goals, that's a key to tracking the progress of our county, how would you allow your constituents to hold you accountable for the results of your administration?
Number one would be financially. You've got to be held financially responsible. And even though the commission passes the budget, you've got to be responsible in your own office. I don't want to go over this more times than I should, but if you look at any department in the county, most of them have maybe more work to do, but no one has cut their budget, cut their staff, and done more work. Now that's from leadership in it. Dora and Diane were there before we were, with a part-time person. We cut that part-time person because I don't mind answering the phone, I don't mind doing whatever's necessary, but I think leadership comes from your own office, what you do. If you can do it with less dollars and do it better, I think that's what you need to be accountable to in your own office first.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Head.
So I don't disagree with that. I'll put it to you basically like we've run our business for the last 8 years. When I took off on my own and started a business, the first thing we did is we put our fees at risk on every contract we do. If we don't perform per our contract, we don't get paid. It's that simple. I think we should hold that same level of accountability for our own selves. As commissioners, as county leaders, we should hold that same level there. I expect to ask the citizens and expect feedback from them. What are we doing and how are we doing it? If we're not doing it right, then we need to shift gears immediately and start moving in the direction they're asking us to go. I applaud what Bill said about the office there. I will say we started one committee up this year, and its first year in budget, we cut it 4.5% immediately. So that's not something isolated to just one department in the county.
Very good. Mr. Head, it's your turn to draw.
How about number 8?
Number 8. What is your position on the property tax increase that's been proposed and that may very well be enacted by the Lincoln County Commission?
That's a multifaceted answer to that question, so I'll do it as quickly as I can. I am for it when it comes to the fact that we're supporting SROs, and I'll tell you why. I've spent quite a bit of my own time and my own money this year going to conferences throughout Tennessee, both with the Tennessee State School Board Association, with the Mental Health Association in Nashville, with the sheriff in Nashville, to understand what we're facing in our schools. And it's not an effort of SROs only. I hope everybody understands that in the county. The issue hasn't come about quickly. This issue has to do with children that have been raised differently than we were, possibly. Now we don't have family units like we had. So children are much different, and they're affected mentally by things much differently than we were when we grew up. So mental health is a big part of what we need to do and address, but mental health and school counselors is a slower reaction than SROs. We also need to look, and we are as part of that tax increase, at hardening the facilities. If we look around the state, the county, and the U.S., since 9/11, we've hardened utility facilities. We've hardened other places, but we haven't looked at the schools much. And now it's time, because of the things that are happening, it's past time. We need to be focused on what we can do to harden them. But the last and quickest prong to solving that situation is the SROs, the school resource officers. And they're not just a guy or a girl that's a road deputy off the road to come in and solve a problem. These folks, when you get the good ones like we've got now, they're there to support those children and those teachers every day. And they will often resolve problems before they ever come to the point of an active shooter situation or an expelled child. So SROs I fully support. And that tax increase, I say we have to do it. There are other issues within the budget that I might have some concerns about, and I'd be happy to talk about those later.
Okay, mine is, it's one of these, I do not like the tax increase, but I don't think we have a choice in this particular one. To me, the thing that don't know whether the timing is right, because the state has appropriated $35 million as a one-time expense. It would not solve our problem long-term. And the federal government has appropriated over 10 years, I believe it's $4.3 billion, but that's all over the U.S. I wish that we could have those dollars to do our one-time improvements in our building and get this first year behind us, but we're not going to be able to do it because of timing. Therefore, if I was a commissioner, I would vote for the tax increase. But now the tax increase part of it is not for the SROs, because we have to give 1/2 of all of our property tax to education, and this is not part of education. We basically have to double the tax because of our agreement that we have with the city about dividing part of our sales tax. So it's not, all of that is not for SROs. 7 cents of it is for SROs. There's 7 cents of that goes to education. My time up.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Go ahead and draw for the next question.
Number 11.
A big part of the mayor's office is being able to bring the community together around contentious issues. Can you share an example of when you showed leadership in either taking a controversial position or bringing people together to find a solution on a controversial issue?
Sure. We have bunches. It's not just one on this, because anytime there is an issue, the commissioners get an email that day. If you watch the commission, I'd say 98% of our votes are unanimous. And the reason they're unanimous is we inform them. When Dora or Diane gets something from my desk, on the top of it, send to all commissioners, and we mail Miss Shirley one, or if it's real urgent, we call her. But they know that day. There's not any build up about what's occurring. If you don't tell people that are the decision makers what's happening, they get mad about it. So we're able, by just information, to head off those. There's just, in the last 4 years, there has not been any controversy to speak of in the commission, in county government.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Head.
A couple of real quick examples. We had an issue since I've been in charge, or since I've been chairing the Rules and Legislative Committee. We had a quick issue that came up with commissioners. Up till this point, we didn't know exactly how many roads or bridges a commissioner could name. There were restrictions by state law on that, but it didn't filter down to our stuff. We had some questions from a lot of commissioners. We took a lot of input from them. We formulated a plan within that committee. We wrote their new rule. We brought the rule as a resolution in front of the commission and got it through. It's a very simple example, but it's one where you take an issue that could be contentious between commissioners, who's going to get to name the next bridge, and we solved it really quickly just by conversation, an open conversation with all. There's been a couple other issues that we've resolved. We had one here recently. Could have become contentious, but it didn't. Working well with our sheriff's department. We had an issue a few weeks ago, or a month and a half ago now, where we could have faced an overcrowding situation like we had before when we had to do the prison system. And we found a solution. We fixed the problem, and we did it quickly.
Very good. Mr. Head, you're drawn.
Two.
What can and will you do as county mayor to make life better for Lincoln County's residents who live at or below the poverty level?
One of the major concerns we have in this county, and I've seen this a lot as we've moved around the county over the last several years. You leave Fayetteville proper, or you leave the central part of the county, and as soon as you get out into the rural parts of the county, you have little or no internet connectivity, virtually none. One of the things that was brought to my attention here recently from one of the real estate agents in the county is that's restricting our input of people moving in from Rutherford County and from the northern sides of Bedford, or from northern Bedford County down into here, when they can't get connectivity. It's not just for the lower and poverty level income people, but it's for all people. When you have access to internet now, you have access to information. When you have access to information, you can grow yourself out of a poverty situation by more education, by more understanding, and moving forward. That's one of the most critical things we can do, is provide that level of information to people at all levels throughout the county. There's some $650 million available through Rural Economic Development grants from Jim Tracy's office. Part of it has to go to health, but part of it can go to rural Wi-Fi development. And with technology that we have coming along now, we can make those improvements across the county. It's not such that it used as it was, where you had to have line of sight with everything, or you had to have direct hotlines to get to everything. There's new means and new technologies that we can expand this quickly.
Mr. Newman.
Would you mind repeating that, because I don't think you answered it, so I want to make sure I answer the question.
What can and will you do as county mayor to make life better for Lincoln County's residents who live at or below the poverty level?
I don't think you're worried. If you're at that level, you're worried about internet, but I do have the map here if anybody wants to look at who's got it available. But last week, and this hadn't made the Elk Valley Times even yet, I was elected the chairman of our district, the 13 counties, the South Central Human Resource District. I will be the chairman of now. And through that agency, here are some of the things we can help those people with. And I will see to it that Lincoln County people at this level get help. One is, anybody can get Insure, the liquid. Insure, that's one of our programs. Our nutrition services for the elderly provides hot, nutritious noontime meals at places and will deliver them for those who can't come for them. Our food service for other individuals that don't even have to qualify. So food and homes are more important than internet service on that. The other thing that we do have, we have energy assistance for low-income people and improving their houses. We have emergency, if something happens in one of their homes, we can get it fixed under an emergency plan where they're not living in the cold or the heat, especially for our elderly people.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Yes, sir.
Your draw.
Thank you. Number 15.
Do you believe Lincoln County should employ its own building inspector? And please explain why.
Yes, sir. I do. It's one of those that it will happen. It's just one of those that's a process on it. First off, it is neutral budget-wise, and it will help the housing industry to have the additional inspections during construction time. There's some pushback from people, and I understand it, by enforcement of some of the codes. But if you get the right person in there, it can work really good, and it's a real asset to construction in our county. So yes, I am. It will not increase taxes, but you've got to have somebody that implements it. It's got halfway good sense.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Head.
So Bill answered a question a while ago for me, or said I didn't understand it. He said that I was all about restrictions and regulations in the county. Let me clarify that. No, I'm not. The 17-page draft that came up last year, or a year and a half ago, I voted against. I wasn't for trying to figure out how the grass should grow in the county. That's not something we need to do. I am for a building inspector, a county building inspector. We are shifting $60,000+ a year to Nashville in fees that would fully fund that office, and we could bring in more and more. We also heard from our building inspector that we're not doing the right things, and I'll expound on that later. But we do need that inspector to be able to understand and enforce some restrictions and regulations, and we can talk about those at length.
All right, very good. Mr. Head, your question?
Number 3.
Since the county mayor is also our county's chief financial officer, describe Lincoln County's greatest strengths as well as its greatest weaknesses From a financial perspective, you might also address ways our financial position can be improved.
So right now, to the best of my understanding, we've got, and we just went through a meeting on this with a consulting group from Nashville that came down and talked about it with us. We have an excellent bond rating right now. This is critical for us as a county because as we move forward, trying to improve infrastructure and trying to maintain our current infrastructure, we may need to float bonds. To float bonds, we've got to have a very good rating. In just a little over 2 years, we have a major roll-off of debt here that will allow us to even have a better rating and be in much, much better financial position. So if we start developing our plans now, we will be able and be in a position to implement a lot of infrastructure growth in a couple of years. We can only do that because we've maintained a strong financial status. The commission did very good this year. There were some questions as we walked through this tax increase proposal. How far down do we go with our current level of funding in the general fund? How far down can we take it? We were given recommendations on where to go, and we maintained that as a commission in this last budget cycle. And our commissioners stood very firm on that, and we're not going below certain levels.
Okay, on mine as the Chief Financial Officer. First off, when we look back on what we've done in the past, first off, when we got in, we analyzed, are there taxes we are not getting as a county? And the answer was yes. We went back and looked at the Hall income tax on that. We are getting now $70,000 a year that we got before I reviewed the records. Finance department went through them. We sent out notices and we got a check within about 2 months of $70,000 and received that additional amount for the last 3 years. So one of those, we've looked at sales tax. A lot of times people don't know when their sales tax goes to Nashville, they don't know whether it comes back to Fayetteville or Lincoln County. One of the things we do annually, look at the list, never been done before. Didn't bring anything like the Hall income tax, but it bought several $1,000s just in sales tax in. So we've got to look for dollars that way, just like Dora and Diane negotiating the medical bills out that are not taken care of here locally, saving us money. We've got to look at every possible way to save money, and if there are dollars out there, we're going after them. And our audit pretty well proves, because I'm the one that, said we want a clean audit, and everybody on the team fulfilled that.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Your question.
Number 14.
President Eisenhower said, politics ought to be the part-time profession of every citizen who would protect the rights and privileges of free men. Now, you've both said that our community needs to be more engaged with the county government. What ideas do you have to make that happen?
Start them young. One of the things that we've started in ours, we've implemented where we get students in our office to work at no charge. We are the first ones that had an intern program. Our intern program is fantastic. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've had probably 4 students in there just working for a few days. You got to get them when they're young, seeing what it is, seeing that it doesn't take some special talent to get involved and to do public service. And you've got to be the kind of person that they'll look up to when they see a public servant. On certain levels, you just think, I would not want my child to be acting like that. Well, I take it pretty personal. I've got children sitting right there, and I want to make sure they're proud of how their daddy acts in office. So if you're that kind of person and in office, I think if you start them young, you'll inspire them and get them involved.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
So as I said earlier, one of the things we've been really fortunate with since we started this campaign was town hall meetings. We've been throughout the county, and we've got quite a few more scheduled to sit down and listen to what the citizens are asking for, listen to their questions, and bring them resolution to their issues. We heard earlier in one earlier meeting, and Bill was talking about what could we do for folks that are out there in the poverty level, and said I didn't understand it. One of the things that was brought up from one lady was, how come we can't have pre-K education for all people? Why isn't it available? You can get 20 people at Flintville, but you can't get any over at this school. and this and this and this. I said, that's a resolution we're going to have to seek, but that's not purely a county issue. It's a county, state, and federal issue. Those are things that I can move forward on quickly. How do you get them involved? Listen to their problems, resolve their problems, make them a part of the solution.
Mr. Head, and I believe, double check me, Chase, if you would, this is our 12th question. Mr. Head, if you would draw.
Number 6.
It's actually number 9 because we had number 6 earlier. I know.
Okay.
I should have thought about that. I apologize.
No problem.
How would you avoid a property tax increase that will be imminent when Goodman shuts down?
I'm not sure I see why a property tax increase would be imminent when Goodman shuts down. As it stands right now, if you go out to Goodman and look, and I've talked to Randy Bradford about it, I've talked to other commissioners about it, I've been out there and looked myself. A lot of the folks working there aren't from Lincoln County. They're coming in from other counties and from across the state line coming north every morning. So I'm not sure we're going to see a tax increase because Goodman shuts down. I will tell you, on the economic development front, people were very concerned about the Nippon Steel Company pulling out. Right now, talking with the Industrial Development Board in the last week or so, we have 2 shortlisted people ready to look at or ready to move on that building. Same thing on the spec building. And the good news is we've got a short list person looking at commercial property in the runway center. This is good news. Jobs are moving in. There's another expansion of another company that may happen soon. All these things are saying we're preparing ourselves for that closing, and I don't see that it's going to have that negative impact.
Very good. Thank you.
I don't think he understands what personal business property taxes are. If they leave, $600,000 plus is lost by the city of Fayetteville and Lincoln County. Now, that is a problem, and here's one of the things we're contributing to it getting worse. We are in the top 6 counties in giving up our industrial tax base through pilots. 30% of our industrial base is on a pilot or some giveaway program that's stealing money from our education. We've got to change that. We've got to make sure industry pays their share of taxes. Not farmers, not commercial entities, not homeowners. Industry's got to pay it. And we do have a problem, and we're going to address it, but it's got to be addressed through the taxes on our industry. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. That finishes out our 12 questions. We drew earlier for who would get to do their introduction first. We also drew for who would get to do their closing first. And I believe, Mr. Newman, you also had the lucky draw.
Thank you.
For the close.
Okay. You know, under your instructions of not getting negatives, there's several things I could go back on and really be negative, but I'm not going to. I think the people of Lincoln County deserve somebody that knows what the job is, knows how to work, has proven their record in the office and prior to. People of Lincoln County know me, you know. They trust me. So I just hope y'all will get out on August 2nd or early voting and put me back in there, because we got a great county, we have a lot of good people, and there's a lot going for us right now. I would hate to see some of the programs that we're midway in get interrupted, because we've got a lot of good things going on, and I appreciate it. And thank y'all for what y'all have done tonight too. And Skip, sorry about invading the minutes. Thank
Mr.
you.
Head?
So I want to say one thing. It's alluded to that I don't understand what's going on. I take exception to that, but that's okay. I kind of expected that. I do want to, once again, thank everybody for their presence and their attention. Politics isn't my favorite subject, and I doubt it's most of yours either. But you've heard a lot about what Bill's thoughts and my thoughts were on the direction of Lincoln County. I want to leave you with one thing that I've heard many, many times in the past. If you do what you've done, you'll get what you got. So if you're satisfied with the state of this county, stay with what you got. But if you're not excited about where we are, and realize that we have little or no plan to do things different, then look to me for the change in leadership and direction. One thing I will say is there's a lot of things that are going to improve that tax status. There's a lot of things that are happening. There's $54,000 a warehouse coming from 2 warehouses that are coming online soon from Jack Daniels. That's happening. So that $600,000 is going to hurt, but there are other things that are coming. And we haven't given away the farm on everything. And we won't ask farmers or others in this community to give up everything they've got to maximize our efforts to move forward. As we've seen a lot of times through our past, a successful businessman with a defined plan of action and an ability to excite folks, which I can do, with direction that is a direction that can be absolutely great for our country. We've seen it. We know it happens. And why would it be any different for our county? I'm that person that can bring that to you. I would very much appreciate your vote, either in early voting starting July 13th or on August 2nd at the polls. I want to thank everybody for their time, and again, I appreciate all y'all's efforts. May God bless all of you, and God bless our county. Thank you.
That's a wrap for the evening. We'd like to thank both Mr. Head and Mr. Newman for being part of the debate. A big thanks to the City of Fayetteville for setting aside this space for us to use. As a reminder, I think both gentlemen mentioned it, but just in case you didn't get the memo, early voting starts July 13th. Election Day is August 2nd. If you're not registered to vote, you can pick up a voter registration form in the back on that table that you saw when you came in, or stop by the Election Commission by July 3rd. For more information on the election and both candidates, check out the elkvalleytimes.com and the fayettevilleweekly.com websites. And most importantly, make sure to vote for this election. Thanks for being here and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.